So if you didn't know, I want to go ahead and give you some good tips about how to use the resources area inside of Sakai. The resources area is a really great place to be able to store content that you either want students to get access to, or you want to disclose to them at particular times, or you want to just store so that as you actually teach from the course, you can go back to that area and see that you have other things. Maybe you decide to collect things along the way and then see if they're still valid or use them in the next time you offer the course. And resources inside of a course site is a really good place to do that. First off, let's get around to how do you add the resources tool to a course site if you don't already have it. The resources tool appears as a folder on the left-hand side. If you expand the folder area here, or the navigation, you'll see there's a resources tool here. To add the resources tool, simply go to Site Info inside the course, and then go to your Manage Tools. In the list of Manage Tools, list down through the area, these are typically by alphabetical in terms of sequence, look for the resources entry and put a check mark there. And then go down the bottom and go through and continue and add the tool just like you normally would. Once the tool is added and you select the tool, you'll see basically a folder listing of folders that you have either created or generic folders that are already there, and then you have contents inside those folders. So across the top we have the site resources, that's all these folders and their contents. There's also a trash tab that lets you get to things that you have deleted, or it's kind of like a recycle bin. There's also a transfer file function. There's a set of permissions, options, and check quota. Over here though, it's just really simple to put content up here, and I do encourage you, if you're going to use resources, to use the resources area and organize your stuff so that it makes sense mostly to you, and if you're going to have students access the resources tool directly, also make sure that the structure and the folder naming also makes sense. You can also add detail for the folders. So like, for example, this documents folder, if I simply select here, then detail has been added to let me know that this is actually a folder that's meant to store specific kinds of files or that sort of thing. There's another folder here that's called an images folder that basically is meant to store image content used in this particular course. So first off, let's get around to how do you add content to a course resources area. And it's very simple. I'm going to go over here and add we're going to go over here and simply click on the drop down and then say upload files. Now you can either drag and drop files into a particular folder or into the course, or you can select here and use a browse option. I'm just going to use the drag and drop function, and what I'd like to do is simply take these and pull them all over. I've got some folders here or slides that I want to put over here, so I'm just going to slide these over here and just simply drag and drop them. Alright, so these are images, so I get thumbnails of them, and you would see the same sort of thing for any other kind of image. And then if you're sure about that these are the things you want to upload, then simply scroll down here to the bottom. There's some other settings here if you wanted to use those, and just simply click continue. You should see that those things are automatically checked off here, and then they are uploaded. So here you can see that those images are uploaded. If I expand my window here, then I can also see additional information about those things. Who has access, who has updated it, when the file was last modified, the file size, that sort of thing. Now let's say I want to move these items into a folder. First of all, how do you make another folder? So I'm going to go up here to Actions on the top course folder, and underneath the Actions I'm going to create a folder. So in the Create folder, I'm just going to call this Items. We'll just do that and create a folder. So the Items folder will be created, and you can see I have the Items folder. Notice that the Items folder doesn't have a plus sign next to it. That means that there's nothing in it that's an empty folder. You can see it says 0 items over here on the right. And now what I want to do is I want to basically take these items that I put here, and I would like to move them into that Items folder. So I'm going to select them all like this. And there we go, down to slide 9. And then we're just going to simply go over here and select our Actions. And we want to move these. And so we're going to move them, and it's going to say, well, where would you like to move them into? And we're going to move them right here into this items folder here. So I'm going to click paste. So that moved that one item in there. Okay, well that's great, but I really wanted to move all of those items in there. And because I selected the actions option here, it was the actions for that particular item. Well, what if I want to go through and move multiple items into a particular section? Is there a way to do that? Is there an easy way to do that? Well, another thing that you can do in terms of uploading content into a course is you can use something that's called transfer files. The transfer files allows you to use a WebDAV client or even your Finder inside of Mac OS to actually drag and drop files and add files to the course site. So the directions for doing so are here, but what I want to show you is how to do this from a Finder window, which is on Mac OS, but you'd be able to do the same thing on Windows within the Explorer area and on a Windows machine. So I've already gone through this WebDAV process of doing the steps here, specifically to the ones that have to do with Mac. I didn't actually use CyberDuck. I actually just used the Connect to Server option in the Mac OS Finder application. And so over here on the right-hand side, then you can see that I have the folder document structure. In fact, if I go over here and back into Site Resources instead of Transfer Files, we're going to see that the document structure here is very similar. So we've got documents, images, items, all those other things. And you can see that these slides are not necessarily in the folder that I want them to be, but I'd like to move them. So using the Finder window over here, I can now click and I can drag to put these items into the folder that I want them to go into. So using the standard Finder thing, I can just simply come over here and we'll just drag them and drop them right in there. So it'll prepare to move those. It's actually showing that here on my other screen. So it's preparing to move those items, and then once the items are moved, then we'll be able to see that those items are in the folder that I want them to be in, and that provides a nice way to get stuff into the course and to organize things. So let's go up here to the top now that that's done, and I'm just going to simply refresh the tool, the resources, and so we scroll down here. Those items are no longer there, they are gone, but you can also see now that they are in the items folder. So if I expand that items folder, I can see that those things are there. Now, another thing that's really nice about the resources area for storing files that have to do with your course, documents, handouts, PowerPoints, that sort of thing, is the ability to search. So you can click up here on all site files and you can use this area to search. So if I wanted to search for a particular slide, so I could search for a slide and figure out where that is. So even if you have a structure or a folder structure that doesn't necessarily give itself to remembering where did I put that, you can use this all site files search function to find the things you need. So I could click here and it would take me to that file and let me see what that file is. Okay, so other things that have to do with resources, there's content that you can put in here, but something else that's really handy about resources is that you can use and disclose the content when you want to by either using the resources specific settings, or you can disclose these things inside of the lessons area. So let me show you first of all how to do that at a resource level area. So I'm going to go ahead and select the items here. We're going to go to slide 1 and we're going to select edit details. And the details of the item can be put such that you have a description, you can specify the copyright, and down here you can say to show the item, and then you can say from a date or to some other date. Right now, since I haven't specified a date, it just shows all the time to those people who have access to this site. So only members of this course site can see the file. There are some other settings that are down here that you could modify if you wanted to, that sort of thing. Other features that are really handy, and some instructors use this if you are, let's pretend this is your syllabus, and say you update your syllabus and you want to update a new version or upload a new version. You don't have to remove this one. You can simply come over here to the Actions area and you can select Upload New Version, in which case you'll get a little browse window and you can upload the new version of the file and it full-on replaces that file. So it doesn't make a duplicate, it just simply replaces it. So other things that are really handy is the way to disclose this kind of content inside of a lesson. I'm going to go over here to a blank lessons area. In the blank lessons area here, say I want to organize some content for my students to understand a particular unit, but I really want them to have access to that content that's in resources. Well, in a very way, I could simply say, I could type out here, please go over to the resources area and click on this folder and then on this subfolder to find this particular file. Well, that's really obtrusive, to be quite honest, and there's a better way to do it, and it's by using the structure and function of lessons. I'm going to click on the Add Content area here, and I'm going to click on the Add Content link. When selecting Add Content link, I can select an existing file from resources. So I can go up here and I can say, okay, I've selected my resources. I want to disclose not the images folder. I want to disclose this particular file right there. Okay, that's good. And then I can click Continue. And once I've done so, then that image will show up there along with the description. So this is that description that I included with that. If I don't want that description, I can come over here and I could take that description out of there and we could hit update the item, and then only that image would appear. Now this is just the file. So it's a reference to the file. So if I click on this, it'll open a new window and I can see that file. If I want the image to show on the actual page, the lesson, then I can click here and I could select to add text. And while I'm not adding text, the rich text edit window allows you to add lots of things, including images. So I can select this insert image and I can browse to the server. And I'll get another little window that comes up that lets me sort of go through and browse the same sort of files that are inside the course site. Okay, so now that the screen's loaded, I can just simply click on the resources area, and inside the resources you're going to see the same sort of folder structure and other things. I'm looking essentially for that images folder that I want to put some sort of content into there, and I just want to put in, let's put in that banner 1 image, and then OK. And so then I can scroll down and save, and then it'll put that image from the resources area right there. And then when the course is replicated or used term over term or session over session, that image will stay with the course, so it's usable inside the course for the duration of that course. Other ways that are really handy in terms of using resources, I can also come up here and we can add, there's a real neat way that we can go through and add a resources folder. So if I want to disclose a whole folder to students, then there's a way to do that inside that add content area. So let's say, for example, I'd like to say, let's make the whole items folder with all those images in there available. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And so then that whole folder and its contents then become available here. So if you've got presentations or you've got a lot of documents that you need students to look through, then you can disclose that information right inside the lesson. And this provides you an opportunity to provide content in context. So that's the idea that you can definitely put some descriptors here rather than just throwing students over to the resources area and hoping they figure it out. So you could provide some descriptive text just above this using the add text function inside of lessons. So you could say, please review the following documents. Okay, so we could do that. We could be a lot more explicit and descriptive if we wanted to, but then you've got some content in context here. So that students could then select these items, review them, and then when they're done, they can come back and see that those items are still there and they're very available. Other things that are really neat about the use of resources in this context as well, especially when you're adding them this way, is that this content then is easily tracked by the site stats. So typically there's a statistics tool. If you don't see the statistics tool, then just simply go into the site info area and add the statistics tool, and then you can see which students accessed which file and how many times using that statistics tool. So just briefly then, I want to go through and show you what you can do inside the trash area. So in the trash area, you're going to see files and folders that you may have deleted, but you haven't completely expunged. And so these are recoverable as long as they exist in that trash area. So for me, though, I'm just going to go through and so I could select here and I could select to restore that, and it would restore that back into the resources area. If I want to, though, I could select all here, and it would select all those materials that are in here, and I could simply select remove. I'll get when it goes through and removes all of those different items. This essentially is expunging them from the course, and so it tells me, it doesn't give me a warning because I've already put those items in the trash, and so by removing them from the trash, they are in effect gone from the course. So you can see here the log that essentially lets me know those items were completely and totally removed. So we go ahead and I don't have to cancel here. We can just simply hit the resources area. And we can go right over to the trash area here then, and you can see that those items are completely removed. There's nothing there for us to take out, or to take out the trash, as it were. So that's a little bit on how the resources works. It's a really great tool, really handy. It's got some great flexibility of things that you can do. So it's a great way to disperse content to your students, especially if you're trying to help them save on their printing fees, or you're trying to save the university money in terms of printing a lot of paper. This is a great way to do that, and then if students want to print those things, then they can select to print them. Other things that I would say about this too is if you're disclosing content to your students in this way, then it can also allow you to have them have access to search functions. So in this example here, this is actually not a good example. Let me go ahead and pull up something else here. We'll pull up this PDF here. So we've got a bunch of PDFs here. So if students are trying to search inside of a document, then they can do that. And they should be able to use just simply their browser's search function. So if I do a search up here and I search for management, then it's great because I already get information here about where that content is. And so if you've uploaded PDFs or Word documents that are accessible, then this makes it very easy for students to connect with the content and figure out where they need to go.